Hey folks, it's me, Ranger, and apologies if my voice is a little low. It's currently a bit late on my time zone, but you know how it goes. We kind of struggle to find the proper time to do reviews sometimes, so have to push forward. So by the time of this recording and video, it is currently past the 68th anniversary of Godzilla, so I'm a little late to the party, but I'm gonna do a figure review just to, celebrate and probably do some other reviews for the month of November. So, yeah. So, anyways, I thought I would review a particular favorite figure of mine that I got this year at this year's G-Fest, and it is, of course, the Bandai DX Godzilla 2002 Roarin' version. So yeah, so of course this version, aka Kiryu comes from the 2002 film Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla, which I have seen the fandom event screening they did for Godzilla Day. So I was very fortunate to see that, which is why I'm reviewing this figure to collaborate on that screening. So yeah, so general history. So this Godzilla, like some of the other Millennium movies, is set in a separate continuity where it is a direct sequel to the first Godzilla film, where a new Godzilla appears and start wrecking shit across Japan. And in that continuity, Japan has suffered a lot of other kaiju attacks, such as Mothra and more War the Gargantuous. So the government decided to create Mechagodzilla to combat Godzilla. The first outing wasn't so successful as Mechagodzilla went extremely rogue because of some hijink wiring that connects to the original Godzilla's bones inside of him due to Godzilla's roaring. And later on in the movie where Godzilla attacks again, Kiryu, or Mechagodzilla, different names with this Millennium Mechagodzilla, Kiryu was sent into battle against Godzilla once again. And towards the end of the battle, the Kiryu launches his Absolute Zero cannon. And although Godzilla came out alive, he did suffer a massive wound, which he will get in his 2003 incarnation. So basically, it was basically a tie between the two titans per se. So yep, it was a tie, and things go a bit more south in Tokyo as West, but that's not the incarnation we're talking about. What we're talking about is 2002 with the DX Roarin' figure. So I'm sure some of you are aware of this figure, and for those who don't, basically this is a more gimmicky Bandai figure, meaning it's actually not made out of vinyl. It is mostly comprised of plastic, as you can hear from that. So a pretty interesting choice for a 6-inch figure, and honestly, that's what makes this figure so unique to me. Like, it's more gimmicky, so the details aren't gonna be as pop as, let's say, an average Bandai vinyl, but what works with the figure still works. So you'll see what I mean. So without further ado, let us get into with the detail. Yeah, so bring closer look. So the head, so Curious Goji's head is pretty iconic these days. Like, you got, a nice blend of the 2000 of Godzilla 2000, the mirrored Goji design with a more traditional Godzilla design, and it really complements it really well. Like, you can see, really nice muscular around the face, and this figure, even though it's more gimmicky, like I said, captured the likeness of Kiryu pretty well. Like, you still get, pretty good ferocious frontal of his face. The eyes are a darkish gold color with a black pupil. I will admit that on my figure, it is a little not as clean. It doesn't really show on camera, but it is what it is. And I'm not gonna brag on some pain mishap on an older figure because, like I said, this is, released in 2002. And as a matter of fact, I do have the box, which I may show later on. So yeah, and he was $90 when I got him. A bit expensive, yes, but mint condition with the box. Even though the box isn't in the best shape, but again, I'll explain that later. But yeah, so yeah, as I was saying, the face has classic Kirigoji look. The teeth, they're not exactly sculpted; they're more or less painted. It is a little sloppy, admittedly, though. I can kind of see what Bandai's intention was. Like, you can kind of see the sculpt of the teeth presented with the white paint. So it is a little unique. Maybe could have done a bit better, but it is what it is. Then, of course, we got the red mouth here. Really nicely done. Not a lot of Godzilla figures would really put this detail into, the inside of the mouth, especially from Bandai back in the, early heydays. Though, to be fair, I think they did add a red mouth with their 2 Godzilla 2000 figures. So, yeah. And of course, we got the infamous neck ridge that Kirigoji and Miyagochi is known for. So that's captured really nicely. Of course, we got nice scoots along his neck also. Really nicely done. Then moving on down to his body. Really nicely picked out on the chest muscle with some nice boxy scales picked out. And of course, you can see noticeable sound holes here. Though, like I said, this is a more gimmicky Godzilla figure, so don't expect to not see any things like these around. And the same thing goes with the button, where you press the roar, which I will show later on. And of course, we got a nice scales on, his elbows here. Nicely picked out. Bigger triangle-like scales pop up here on both of them. So that is nicely picked out. Gives Kirigoshi a bit more character. So yeah. And also you can't see the seam lines with the articulation. Again, more gimmicky figures, so you're gonna make some sacrifices here and there. So yeah. Of course, we got nice scales picked out also on the arms here. Nicely picked out. On this underside too, nicely picked out scales picked out. Of course, we got the claws. A little bit scuffs on both ends, but again, particularly this one. This one is actually fine. Again, not something to really complain to me, honestly, because, like I said, this is an older Bandai figure, so. But I will admit that it is strange that they are a little scuffed even out of the box, because I do believe this figure was actually mint in box. Well, the box wasn't mint. I know I said that before, but the box wasn't mint, but the figure was mint. So a little strange to see a little scuffs, but no big deal. So yeah, nicely picked out scales, especially on this arm. I will admit that these his sides are a bit of an eyesore. Like, you can, as you can see the plastics seam lines here on both sides. It can be a bit jarring, admittedly, but this was Bandai trying to be a bit more gimmicky, so I'm not gonna really be too harsh on these. So eyesore, sure, but what can you do about it, honestly? Especially with the time Bandai was experimenting with gimmicky figures. So yep, because I do believe it was around the early 2000s during the millennium era where they were really pumping out some electronic figures back then. So yeah, so moving on, so nice, continue on with some nice scale details going on. We got the lower waist here with some nice picked out scales. The scales on the legs, again, a bit more boxy like scales. And also you can't see noticeable seam lines on the legs. Noticeable, sure, but again, gimmicky figure. So Yes, and you got some nice scales also picked out on these sides of the legs also. Then with the lower legs, we got also still some nice scale details picked out. Really nicely done. Moving on to the nice big feet. I think the beats look pretty good on Kiryogoji here. It's nice scales running down, their toes here. Nicely picked out. Like how these scales kind of get smaller once they hit the feet. So, yep, really nicely done. And of course, we got the nails picked out. The nails are actually nicely painted on the feet. I should mention that the nails on, his hands, they're more of a creamy bone color. But these ones the toes are interesting. While they're still a creamy bone color, they actually have a bit of a brown wash on them. So an interesting choice, and it makes the toes stand out a bit more. So nice done work by Bandai. So, yep. Then, of course, moving on with the scoots, aka the fins. So they're nicely picked out. They're honestly the best part of this figure. I mean, any Godzilla's figures, the spines are out to be the highlights. And with this one, it's no exception. You got a nice silver painted on them. And yet you can still see some nice details, especially when you get to the bottom of the scales. You can see nice smaller details picked out, nice smaller scoots. So nicely picked out. And then of course along the edge of them you got more noticeable bigger spikes along the sides. I think that is a really cool attention to detail. Nicely worked by Bandai. Yep, despite this being a gimmicky figure, they made sure that the dorsal fins were standout. So yep. Then of course we got the tail here, really nicely picked out. Now, same silver details. I should mention that the tail, if you guys do get this figure, does come separately. And the assembly is easy, which I will show later on. So, yep, nice spines picked out. And, of course, they get lower and smaller once you reach the end of the tail. And the tail itself, nicely picked out scoots, or I should say scales picked out. Nicely picked out. I know I keep on saying picked out. I'm sorry, but you get what I mean. The scales, they're well done. All around the tail, you got the underside, more a leathery detail right here. So yeah. Yeah, so and I'll mention this again, but the tail is really flexible also. Like, I'm not sure if this is actually vinyl or plastic the tail is used, but whatever material it is, it's pretty bendy and, you're not gonna worry on really damaging it unless you really, really mess with it. And I do not recommend that considering, this can be a pretty expensive figure. So please just be careful with this one. Like I said, $90 I paid for this guy. So yeah, be sure to keep this one safe. So yeah, and I should mention that the entire body is mainly a charcoal, darker, grayish / black. I do believe that Kiryogoji was more of a lighter gray in his movie, and there was a snippet of his suit on the box that will show, but Bandai wasn't exactly consistent with their kaiju's bodies, both before and even today. But, you have to make some sacrifices. And, I still think, they did a good job with the colors overall. And plus, a more charcoal black Godzilla is more traditional in the release. So, no big biggie. And it still looks pretty cool. So, yep, moving on with articulation, which this guy actually has quite a lot despite being gimmicky. So, first up the head, full 360. Starting with the arms here. They go 360. Or, actually no, because these arms can kind of actually hit with the scoots here. With these bigger spikes, actually. So that is a bit of a limitation, but they can still move pretty good, fair amount, honestly. And even though these part of the arms can move, these ones can. They can move in and out. Really nice. And, you know, these parts of the arms can move a full 360. So you can actually get Godzilla in some pretty cool positions with his arms, actually. Get him in a more, roaring, claws out position, or a more relaxed, like position right here. So that's some pretty cool liberty Bandai did, and could actually make some good shots with photography for sure. And then moving on with the legs, not exactly movable, but they can move in out here. So yep, not 360, but they can still move. And the knees are even articulated a bit though. So you can see them pivot. So yep, not too bad articulation with the knees. And of course the tail moves 360. Now this is the part I'll mention, the assembly with the tail. So in the box, the tail does come separate, and the assembly isn't too difficult. So you just need to rearrange it with this huge socket here. This is of course where the batteries go, and I will showcase the sounds later on. So basically try to pop it in, and it pops in pretty easily, as you can see. So no real issues here. So, and like I said, tail is bending. And I'm really glad that this material has actually lasted long since 2002. Like, keep in mind, this is an old figure, and under the right boxing condition, the tail can last for a pretty long time, I assume. So kudos to Bandai for picking a pretty good material with the tail. Now, here's the fun part. This is the roaring 2002 Godzilla. So it means it makes sound. So one detail I kind of forgot to mention is this on and off switch on, his, well, more or less sorry, I'm trying to think. More or less my left side with him is the on and off switch. So, right now it's on off, and now it's on. And of course it does kind of affect, the sculpt on this figure, but again, more gimmicky, so you need to make some sacrifices. So it's on, so let us hear his sounds. Hear it again. So yeah, so if you guys didn't hear that, or you probably did, the sounds, the roaring feature sounds pretty good actually. So it's not exactly crisp clear. I mean, that is expected. This is an older figure, and the roar isn't exactly accurate to the Millennium Roar, as you heard. But for a toy like this, it's pretty damn cool to hear a roar from Godzilla. And I do mean from a Godzilla figure. I do know that SH Monster Arts released their Kyoku Godzilla 89 a few years ago. So, kind of glad that they did that sort of idea. Even though they kind of dropped it after that initial release. But hey, if they can make a Kyoku Final Wars Godzilla, I'd be buying. But anyways, let's hear the sound again. Yep, pretty damn cool. Now, I should also mention that I do recommend keeping him off on the off button if you don't plan to use his roar from time to time, because even though the figure I got was in mint condition in the box, I do assume that, his roaring feature would get damaged over time if you keep on putting roaring with him, and keeping him on the on button would increase the risk, since, he's an older figure, so he's not going to be as durable as he used to be. So I do want to acknowledge to be mindful with that feature. So yeah, just in my opinion, keep him on the off button if you're not planning to use the roar. So yeah, that's all I have to say. So we covered sculpt, detail, articulation, and the sounds. Before we get into the comparisons, I think I might as well show off the box real quick. So there's the box, and you can see me right here. Hello. So yeah, so the box, like I said, this box is definitely not in the best condition, as you can see, but this is by far one of my favorite boxes in my collection, where I do save a lot of boxes from my figures just for safekeeping. And this box is pretty damn cool. So, we can see, a nice display window where you could have seen the figure here. And like I said, $90. Like I said, a bit expensive, but, I think it's worth for, having the figure with the box and in mint condition. So, yeah, got some Japanese writing I can't understand. Got the Godzilla Against Mechagodzilla on top, and we got 2002 sticker with the Godzilla logo. Then we got Godzilla 2003, even though this is 2002. Yep, even said Bandai 2002. And of course, we got the headshot of Godzilla here. And that, as I mentioned before, the Kirigoji suit was more of a charcoal gray color than the more blackish color this figure is. But then again, it's no big biggie, like I said. So, and it makes this figure a little bit more unique. And also, I think the eyes are a bit different. Kirigoji's eyes were a bit more yellowish in color, while this guy's figure are a little bit more gold. So, smaller details, sure, but, no big whoop, makes this figure more unique. And it's more gimmicky, like I said. So, turning around. Got nice display of the figure. You can see, and that's what I'm talking about. You can get the arms and express his postures like these. So, yep. Got the back showing you where you can articulate. Now, the on and off switch, how to assemble tail, and the batteries used. You need button batteries for this guy. So, we got some Lego Model Jumbo. And on top, you got some really nice shots of the suit, especially the shot where Godzilla was roaring before the logo popped. That shot, oh my god, that was so freaking amazing to see in theaters. And of course, we got a nice shot of him in front of flames. So yep. And I love this gradient look on Godzilla with the more burning outline in front of him. So really, really awesome. And on the bottom, we actually got, this same logo here. And we actually got a cool shot of Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. So, yeah, really cool. Actually, this looks really, really cool, actually. Man, if only Bandai could do these in a lot of their figures these days. And, of course, we got, this shot, of, the figure itself. And, of course, the more expressive posture with the hands. So, yep. And actually, I'm not sure if you guys noticed, the spines on the figure here, and I'm pretty sure this is the prototype, are actually more of a whitish color, while this ones are more silver. I'm actually glad that they did the silver, as they are a little bit more accurate to the suit. So, yep, just wanted to mention that. So yeah, that's the box. Now, we can get on to the scale. Now, Kirigoji's scale is actually around the 6-inch scale, actually. So he will actually size up pretty comparable to your average 6-inch figure. So to show you what I mean, here he is with, his number one opponent. Even though this isn't the exact incarnation of Mechagodzilla, we're still going to use him. And it is, of course, the SH Monster Arts Kiryu 2003 from Tokyo SOS. And yeah, these two look really good next to each other. Like, this is pitch perfect to how they scale up in the movie. Yeah, I definitely remember, Kiryu being, a little bit bigger. Of course, it depends on, how tall you make the Monster Arts figure. bigger. So yeah, I think Kiryu sizes up preferably next to Godzilla here. Like, this is definitely really good. You could get him into like melee shots like you would have in a movie. Kiryu punching Godzilla like that. Then Godzilla, just, demolishing Kiryu. Then we got the shot of, them flying out to sea while Kiryu is about to activate his Absolute Zero. Even though this version only has the hyper cannons in his chest now. So, yep. Still looking pretty cool. And of course, since he would later on face off this particular kaiju, we of course have to compare him to the 6-inch Mothra 2003, even though her tag shows us 1992 for some reason. But yeah, they look pretty good. I think Mothra should be a little bit bigger. Like, I remember her definitely kind of being a bit bigger than Godzilla. And, you got that shot where, she was grabbing Godzilla and then Godzilla was sliding against, the streets. So, not accurate, but, it is what it is. And they still look pretty good next to each other. So, yep, that's that. And actually, I forgot to show off this one, or I forgot to bring it out for this review. We of course got the Mothra larvae, 2003 Mothra larvae. I think the Mothra larvae is a little bit too big, as I do remember the scene where, one of them bites Godzilla's tail in Tokyo SOS. So I think the larvae is a bit too big, but they still look okay next to each other. And of course, since I do got this figure, I of course need to make a comparison to another Kiryu figure, and it is of course, the NECA 2003. Yep. So we got, two versions of the Kiryu, both from different companies and both from different films. So, we could see some pretty minor differences already. So, like I said, this one more gimmicky, and this one is more of a collector's item. Like, this one is a collector's item today, but back then it was seen as a toy. So, yeah. But we can see some minor differences. The first one is that this one's colors are a bit more realistic, while this one is a bit more shiny because of how gimmicky he is. And another is the head. Like, I believe this one's head is a bit more boxier than this guy's. And I am aware that the 2003 suit was modified a little bit from 2002, so I'm not entirely sure what those differences are. So if anyone likes to point out those differences, I'd be happy. So yeah, and of course we got the claws, and I probably shouldn't ramble on, but I think the biggest difference here is the size. Like, the NECA figure is a lot bigger than this one, and then the Roarin 2002, which may not be the best choice for your Monster Arts Kiryu, because, yeah, he is a bit tiny next to Godzilla, which is not accurate whatsoever. So, these two, they size up good, but with 2003 NECA, not so much. I should mention that my opinion on the NECA 2003, it is a good figure, but there are some things that kind of bother me. Like, I do think the sculpt could have been a little bit better in terms of being accurate, and its tail kind of falls apart a bit too easy, but that's a story for another day. But, there's that comparison. And to show him with another 6-inch Godzilla, I of course have to bring out, since I have him around anyways. Of course, we got the Monster Arts 2004 Godzilla, you know, the year after 2003. So, yep, when you put Final Wars in a certain position, they are around the same size, although this guy is a little bit more bigger in terms of, you know, width. So, yeah, I just want to make that comparison. And the final comparison I want to do is with a really interesting figure. I had a spare Bandai Creations or Bandai America Godzilla 2000, and at the time, I didn't have a proper 2002 figure. I had the 2003 NECA, but not 2002. And I'm sure you guys may have seen this figure once in a while. But here is, you know, my custom, quote-unquote, 2002 Atomic Blast Godzilla. But, you know, with, you know, painted dorsal fins. And actually, fun fact, these dorsal fins do glow up with, you know, glowing paint. But, yeah, they look pretty interesting. Of course, not the actual 2002 design. This is, you know, the Godzilla 2000 design. But, you know, pretty cool how I made my own 2002 Godzilla before getting this one. So I knew when I saw this one, I thought to myself, it would be cool if I get an actual 2002 Godzilla. So that's how, you know, I managed to find this one at this year's G-Fest 2022. So this guy kind of retired a little bit. He's now part of my low shelf here in the basement while this guy is living upstairs in my room. So, yep. But yeah, pretty cool comparison. And I still really do like the paint job I did with this figure. So, yeah, I'm definitely keeping this one for pretty much a little while. But, you know, this is definitely the real 2002 Godzilla. So, yeah, I think that is it. So, yeah, overall, really solid figure. You know, if you're looking for, you know, the best, the best, quality for being a action figure and all that, you may not get that initially as, like I said, gimmicky figure. This is a toy from, you know, the early 2000s. So it's going to show some, you know, seam parts, you know, some, you know, noticeable buttons here and there. But for what it's worth, I think Bandai did a really solid job with this one. You know, it has really decent enough details despite being a gimmicky figure. The paint is really solid. Articulation is pretty good in a lot of areas. And he is an average 6 scale figure. So if you're really picky on, you know, how you scale up your Godzilla figures, and if you think the 2003 NECA figure is a bit too big for your liking, definitely get this one if you're preferable on an accurate size at Kirigochi with this one, and probably the SH Monster Arts one, which coincidentally, I think the $90 price is how much the 2002 SH Monster Arts was priced around. So that's actually kind of interesting to think about. So yeah, so overall, really happy with this one. Definitely one of my favorite figures that I got from G-Fest this year. So yeah, so I think that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully I'll release some more reviews for, you know, November, you know, Godzilla month basically. So yeah, let's see how that goes. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.